Most definitely. Yeah, I think in many ways I kind of feel I've just started. There are so many things still I wanna do, and I'm already quite deep into the process of doing new stuff. So I can't really be too specific because then I would have to kill you afterwards. No, it's a little bit too early, but I can say that I'm both working on I'm working on two different things. Both sort of Wardruna album as you know it, that full on format. But I'm also working quite a lot on these days on the material that I do on my solo performances, a more skaldic format of things. So that's some of the stuff you can expect in the near future. Well, you know, a lot of these traditions and stories or yeah, a lot of this old culture is born out of nature, and that is sort of the link that still makes it relevant. We're still here, apart from the fact that we in many ways have removed ourselves from nature, so we can sort of allow ourselves to have a romantic relationship to it, and that's whereas in earlier times nature was something you fought, you tried to control it in a way. So but I don't know, the main challenge is, of course, for me it has always been important to focus on just that, the relevance. I don't believe that your roots are necessarily important just because they are your roots. If it were like that, then you would be just carrying around a big sack of empty symbols that didn't carry any meaning anymore, because we live in different times. So it's always been important for me to focus on precisely those things, the stuff that still carry meaning in contemporary times, but also things we can learn from the past, things we need today that we have forgotten. A lot of people tend to think that in ancient times we were so primitive. I would say quite the opposite in so many ways, in terms of how we acknowledge and how we treat our surroundings and each other, and yeah, so lots of things to learn, and of course challenges in terms of, if you mean more the process of recording these things is of course challenging in a way, in terms of catching these different aspects of nature and of human nature. To be able to create sound to that is of course a very profound and overwhelming process in itself. Can be, at least some of the themes I'm working with is more given and easier to spot and easier to create sound to, but a lot of the things are more subtle and more, you have to dig deeper to find the voice in a way. Well, the whole trilogy is based on runes, and runes, they are very, very good images of different aspects of nature itself, of human nature, and of our relation to something bigger than ourselves. whether both spiritually and philosophically, I would say. So each of these runes have sort of their meaning and their part of the puzzle within them. So if I interpret the rune for the birch trees, I go out in the forest and play on birch trees, and of course try and gather as much information I can on how the living tradition viewed them, or viewed the rune itself, or can mean anything from only playing on the branches that lean towards the east, or the true nerds will know what that means, and use the sound of when they blossom in the spring, and use the bark, the sound of wood against them, etc. And the same goes with playing on stones, fire, standing in the middle of a river to capture the feeling of water, when you being part of water, when you're expressing water. So in many ways you can say that it's the themes that is the composer, and I am the instrument. So it's kind of switching it around. I'm trying as hard as I can to adapt to the themes themselves, to the runes themselves when I was working on them. So switching it around, and that's of course very time consuming, and it's difficult to push it into a timeline or so. Can be very time consuming and challenging process, I would say. First of all, they each have their purpose in the sort of, there is a storyline, there is a red line that moves throughout, and each of the, I would say the first album is very much, I think if Wardruna has a mantra, it's about sowing new seeds and strengthening old roots. That's sort of been the mantra all along, and the first album is about sowing seeds, about creation, and you hear it in the runes that are on there, that they are very adept to telling that story. And the second one is about nurturing that seed, giving it strong roots and a lot of wind. That's what gives strong roots. So resistance makes you strong, and that's perhaps why the album turned out a little bit dark as well. It was given by itself in a way, and the last album, the Great Transformation, I think that has sort of elements from both albums, but it takes it a step further, and I think a lot of people were expecting the last one with the title Ragnarok to be the darkest one, to be a lot of howling wolves and splintering metal and that stuff, but for me that would be very uninteresting and pointless, because and very sort of stereotypical way of viewing that myth and a lot of the other myths surrounding that. It's circular thinking. So in my for me, Ragnarok actually happened at the end of the second album, and the third album is basically when the ashes have settled and the birth of the world again.
Yes, the new earth rises from the waters.
The death and rebirth, basically focusing on the new beginning. It's of course when you work with a strong concept that is supposed to be in a way, and especially with runes that are they are what they are. So, and that was the purpose. So sometimes it's been challenging, of course. I wouldn't say limiting, because I've been very much I promised myself that I wouldn't force the song. Daring to I promised myself to dare to let the song take me where the song wants to take me, and not try to squeeze it into a pre-decided form. And sometimes a lot of I've been very surprised by this process, and sometimes that can be quite scary as well, to sort of because I had never heard music like that, and how just thinking that this sounds totally crazy, but yeah, so I don't necessarily feel it's been a limiting thing. It's in a way the opposite, but yeah. Well, as an artist, I am allergic towards, or I cannot do it halfway. It's when I do it, I have to do it 100%, and every night is different, every audience is different, every room is different. I am different every day, so in a way, performing in front of 50 people or 2 people, or it's then and there. And of course it can be very it's perhaps more nerve-wracking in a sense, more naked to and vulnerable to play for a small amount of people than a mass of people. I think the difference lies in that it's sometimes actually more scary to do the small, intimate ones, because it's a very vulnerable situation in a way, and also the whole solo concept, because it's not a very you can't hide anywhere. You can't hide behind a wall of sound, or if you make a mistake, then you make a mistake, and everybody will see it and hear it in a much that's really not my focus when I perform. I don't really care about those things, but so it's a more vulnerable thing. Well, that's actually very interesting, because since the beginning, I've witnessed a lot of strong emotion when we perform, and the fascinating thing is that we see the exact same reactions on the exact same places, whether or not it's in Scandinavia, in Norway, or if it's some other place in the world. So that power that lies in the fact of performing with your heart on the outside, and being fully present and connecting with people, and the fact that music has this extreme ability to transcend meaning, beyond borders of culture or language or time or whatever. It's a fantastic thing. That's it's just as amazing every time you see it. It's a beautiful thing. Well, I guess Wardruna has been sort of I think we have paved the way in many ways. So I think it's much easier for the bands coming up now, which is a good thing, I think. You know, I've been saying all along that part of the reason why I want to do this is that I want people to use these instruments to remember a lot of these things, and so that's I think it's a wonderful thing, and because I think in many ways perhaps Wardruna has defined a genre, or at least opened the possibility, showing that it is possible, opening the door to other musical genres that now know of this music and sort of embrace it. So I think Wardruna has had a big part of making that possible for the new acts. Yeah, there is a world of change, and difference. I mean, yeah, no. For me, Gorgoroth was that was work, that was art, an artistic expression. I did not have any personal connection to it or passion for the thematics or so that is sort of why I chose to leave as well, because the need to do something that meant something to me, that resonated within, became more and more prominent. So the decision to quit all my involvement in various bands at the time was inevitable and was an easy choice. I think I couldn't not do it. Yeah, that was basically the reason for that. I think for many years, since my early teens, I had carried this vision of a project like Wardruna. But it wasn't until 2002 I started acting it out and started recording for it. I think you have to, and I think that applies for your previous question also on how the albums evolved. That you know, everything you do has an impact on you. You grow every day, potentially. You learn something every day, potentially. And of course, Wardruna has been a do-it-yourself thing from the get-go. I had never recorded anything before starting Wardruna, so I had to learn that, and most of the instruments used I had never used, so it's been sort of a do-it-yourself process all the way, and I think that's a very and you notice that in the album as well, not only in terms of instrument and stuff, but as a human being, you learn a lot, potentially, I have to say, throughout time, and I think working with other people who you respect and who can complement your own visions or can challenge your own views to things, and I think it's a very a very positive thing, and I learn a lot every time I either go on stage with other people or work with them. It's I see it as a very good thing for me as a musician to both challenge myself and think new. We're quite spoiled in being invited to perform in beautiful places and in special places, and yeah, I'm sure there are, and there are some, but I can't mention them because then I would spoil my plans. But no, the world is full of beautiful places, powerful places. Whether or not it's a place in nature or there is a reason why some places have been considered holy or special for thousands of years. The power of aesthetics, that's also part of sorcery or not to be underestimated. So the goal is always to find these places that in some way complement the music. That's why we've been very restrictive towards doing festivals, and I can I can tell you that I think 90% of all requests for concerts that we received throughout these years have been declined precisely for that reason, to want to, both for our sake but also for the audience, stay true to that gut feeling and desire to do things in complementing settings. Of course, sometimes you compromise, which is a good thing. At least now, at this point, it's good to sometimes compromise. So we do some festivals and where we feel it's right. I think it's quite possible, but I cannot say for sure. Most of the time, it's me deciding, basically. I think it's a great. I think that's a great series because it dares to sort of shake up these stupid and limiting stereotypes that people have of this time. They sort of put the volume on 1 million and go for it. And I think that's a beautiful thing, and to use Helvägen in that sequence, it's just a beautiful thing. And here in the north, music is dark, paintings are dark, a lot of poetry is quite dark.
Humor is dark.
Humor is very dark. So I think it's a very good combo. So I'm pleased with that. Well, like I said before, it's I'm working on these. I think the first you can expect from me is and Wardruna, apart from the upcoming Hugshaw album with Ivar Bjørnsson, is a Wardruna album with more a skaldic format. More the stuff I do alone. Which is it's quite no compromise type of album, and for sure not going to be a massive commercial success, but it is for the fans, I guess, and those who are into this cultural bit, and I don't know, it's a lovely thing, and the skaldic art, the art of the poetry, I think it deserves a voice today. People somehow need to understand how insanely high form of art it really is, and hope that can be a small contribution to that, to have people perhaps want to have a look into that, or something. And of course also I'm working on new full-on Wardruna material, but it's too early to say much about that, apart from it's in process, and yeah. I have to say that I don't take anything for granted. What I do for myself. I couldn't not do it, and the fact that so many that this resonate with so many people, and it's really overwhelming, and the fact I'm always just as nervous whenever I put out a new concert, and the fact that so many people wanted to come and to come see us here. It's a fantastic thing that I truly appreciate, and yeah, makes me want to come here more often, I guess.